Welcome to the Life Turkey podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Life Junkies podcast. I'm an idiot, people. I have just spent the last 15 minutes. I have 15 minutes of recording, and I've done my intro. I quite like. Actually, you know what? I was really happy with that intro. I covered the bullet points I wanted to cover. I went on a nice rant that was unplanned, unscripted, but I thought it was really good. You know what? I sat there and thought, God, that is the best 50 minutes of podcasting I've done since I've started this podcast. And then, of course, because I'm looking at my show notes while I'm talking, I've got my show notes up, and I go across to Audacity that I'm recording this in to stop recording because I've popped my daughter on downstairs in front of the TV. While I do this, I know I'm an awful parent. Send me hate mail, I know that. And I've gone across to Audacity to stop it because she whacked the volume up. So I need to go down and ask her to turn it down, or to turn it down for her. And as I've gone across, I've noticed that the soundbar on my recording is the same all along. It doesn't change. And I've plugged the wrong part of my headphones into my laptop. I talked to when I did the FM podcast with Mike, according to FM, and Tony, FM Grasshopper. I had to double check with them that my sound wasn't coming back through my headphones because these headphones have two jacks, one for listening and one for the audio for recording. And I only have one jack in my laptop, so I have to plug the recording one in, and then to hear them, I had to have the audio coming out of my laptop, and it was all fine. They couldn't hear me back. I didn't come across on the recording. It was all kosher. Well, no, so they couldn't hear themselves back. That's the point, because I was worried it would double up on them because it'd be. But it's this microphone is very good at just picking up the noises that are coming out of my mouth and not anything else. So, but yeah, I have sat here for 15 minutes recorded, probably my best work, and it is all gone. So I'm going to try and work myself back up to where I was to rant. So anyway, I am Mike Brazier, and welcome to the Life Junkies podcast. I can't remember if I mentioned that when I started this second recording. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and a lot of them are very professional. A lot of them are very amateur, similar to what I do. It's, one guy or a few guys with microphones and whatnot sit on their computers. They might Skype each other. There's one I used to listen to, the Don, Tony and Kevin Castle show, is the one that I'm thinking of in particular. And there's the two hosts, but the main guy behind it, which was Don Tony, he had a proper setup. He had a computer and proper mic and everything. And for the longest time, his co-host, Kevin Castle, used to ring him and literally ring in. I presume he managed to do it through Skype. He'd ring in to Skype, and his audio was always awful. But it was that level. It's fine. I don't think, in general, audio doesn't bother me as long as I can understand what the people are saying. Then that's fine. I don't think my audio is perfect. I don't think it's awful. I don't think it's perfect. I've wound up the lads at the OMG, the One More Game podcast before. That's Mike according to FM and Chris Samo, FM Samo. That they that sometimes their audio has been a bit bad, and they've managed to improve it. Again, it's probably fairly similar to my. I don't know. I'm not an audiophile. Just like I've never really been a visual file. It doesn't bother me that much. But yeah, I used to wind up because sometimes if I was listening through my soundbar downstairs, I like to a lot. If I sit play Skyrim or Fallout or something, I like to have a podcast for instead of the radio stations on Extra Game. I like to listen to podcasts, and that helps me get through because I've got a lot to get through. Too many podcasts, and so that's why I'm adding another one to the world. And what was my original point? But I've listened to countless Don Tony and Kevin Castle show podcasts, which they have come on and gone, oh, people, we are idiots. We just recorded this, and I hadn't set it to record, or something had gone wrong, and they've lost, half an hour or more of audio. It's just the way it happens if you're not. I've just sat down and plugged it in, and it's fairly dark in the room that I'm sat in. I haven't got a massive amount of time to record this podcast because I've got a lot of other stuff to get done today, as well as not just editing it and then posting it, which can take forever. I've got all my housework to do today. I've got my partner's presents, so I've got to wrap and get sorted. I've got a small child I've got to get back downstairs who is waiting for me. So I haven't got a massive amount of time. So I sort of just plugged it in and went, and I couldn't see. It's just a little image on it, which either has a picture of a microphone or a picture of some headphones. And because I'm an idiot. But yeah. On another note, the Don Tony and Chemical show I stopped listening to because it was a wrestling podcast. It was more than a wrestling podcast. It was a general. Its core, it was a wrestling podcast. But in reality, they talked about far more, and they talk about things I wasn't. Baseball, which I don't have the foggiest. They're both big baseball fans, and they would talk about state of American politics or some pop culture thing or blah 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 blah. And I was always fine with that. The reason I stopped watching is because Don Tony specifically was a very big Donald Trump fan, and that's fine. I of course am very anti-Trump. I have no issue with someone else having a different political opinion to me. That's fine. There are plenty of people that have differing political opinions to me, and I am a fan of reasonable debate. I think that's something that we've lost in our society. I'm going on another unplanned. Yeah, and in many ways, I just want to put that podcast has shaped my podcasting because he used to every now and then, because is basically Kevin Castle worked in a nightclub. I say a nightclub. He worked at a gig where bands would come. It was sort of like a nightclub / gig venue. And so often he was working or he was busy or whatever, and life gets in the way. And whereas Don Tony, I think he runs his own insurance business. It was a lot easier for him. His job was far more 9 to 5, as well as, of course, the extra paperwork and stuff you have to do to run your own business. But he was able to make the time. And occasionally he would not be able to make it, but he would know far more in advance of time and would be able to get someone else to cover him. But every now and then, Kevin Castle wasn't able to get on, and there were periods of a few weeks where he wouldn't be able to get on. And he so Don Tony would often have to do his own, do a show on his own. And this is something that even while I was doing the remote gamers with David Quayle, that I was interested in doing. I made a few attempts. I just sat down and I tried to record a few podcasts. This was quite a few years ago now. I felt like I wouldn't have been able to do my own podcast. Let's sit down and talk on my own, which is why I'm happy to do this on my own. I have people that I could probably try and call in. Through doing this, I found out that one of the guys that I'm friends with in the FM community is a wrestling fan. So me and him have very briefly talked about a wrestling podcast we both listen to, and he's someone I want to get on here for his FM side of things. But he's also someone I'd be quite interested in getting on wrestling wise. But I'm more than happy to sit down and do these podcasts on my own because I've listened to his and I enjoyed his. It's something different. It brought something different. It brought something varied to the podcast. So it's something I want to do with remote gamers. And I when we moved to White Noise, before we became White Noise, I voiced the opinion of if one of us can't do a recording at the last minute, why don't we just sit down and try and do one on our own, whether it be me or him or whatnot. He was quite against it. He said we were a duo and he wants us to keep that dynamic, and that's fine. That's the point of when, as a podcast, we are very much a team. So it wasn't one of us was in charge and whatnot. It was both of our baby. It was both of our hard work. And so if he wanted to keep it that way, I was more than happy. I wasn't massively confident in the idea of doing it on my own anyway. I tried. Yeah, I had started to create my own offshoot with old friend of a podcast, Dan Barlow. He and that never quite got off the ground, and that was sort of similar to this. It was still going to be games, but it was going to be talk about how I would like to talk about games, like the one I did last week, but sort of focused on one game at a time. And that's how I'd like to move forward with the gaming side of things. But I think to talk about one game for a whole podcast, I would need someone else on there with me. Which again, I've got no issue with other people coming on. Different to F1 podcast, more similar to the guys over at Kano Rinse. If you haven't checked out there, if you haven't listened to them, they're really good. You should check them out. I have them. I've got a lot of them on back to get to listen to, which is But I am rambling now. I have now been rambling on for over 11 minutes about random rubbish. But I just to finish off this story, the reason I stopped listening to the D'Antoni game was not only that D'Antoni became a Kevin Castle fan, because often they said things that I didn't agree with. They had strong views on millennials for a long time, and I didn't agree with it, but it's fine. But he started going about Trump every podcast, and for every podcast, there's at least a half an hour at the start that was just dedicated to talking about Donald Trump and how Donald Trump was right and how Donald Trump was this and that. And in the end, I was like, I'm just not enjoying this anymore. It just makes me angry. And I even gave him a cursory listen back a few months ago now, because I stopped listening to him over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. But I gave him a cursory listen back and a few months ago, and straight away it was Donald Trump. And yes, Donald Trump is a big talking point if you talk about, but it's just to be, because not only with the event, but at some point, inevitably, at some point during the show, he'd pop back up again. And then you get an extra 10, 25 minutes on Donald Trump. And it's like, guys, I'm just not interested. It just got too much. And I went through a long time of listening to this before I was like, you know what? I've got other podcasts to listen to. I'd migrated by that point onto the guys at Wrestling Soup, who they're very closely connected. The guy that is basically brains behind Wrestling Soup, Anthony Missionary Thomas, he does a lot of stuff for D'Antoni and Kevin Castle show. They have a Patreon show that they both record called Breakfast Soup between D'Antoni and Anthony Thomas. So yeah, I still listen to Wrestling Soup, not as much as I used to. I tend to listen to the pay-per-view predictions and review shows now, which is all the podcasts I listen to. I basically do them and the What Culture guys. So that was why. That was my time with D'Antoni and Kevin Castle show, and why I'm quite happy to sit in and podcast on my own. But anyway, I've now wasted, that's probably roughly half an hour I've now wasted in messing up an intro and waffling on about podcasts. In a few hours from now, from the release date of this podcast and from the recording time of this podcast, because I'm now saying it's 3:15. I am recording this podcast. I've been waffling on for roughly 50 minutes. In fact, when I sat down at the start of the last intro, I sat down and said, it is now 2:45. I'm recording this. So yeah, it is now 17 minutes past 3. And I need to get this done. I would like to say, and again, I need to point out that I need to mention I have taken another week off. I mentioned last week I took time off for mental fatigue. I've taken another week off, sort of. I managed to get an FM piece out. Did I manage? Yes, I managed to get an FM piece out on Monday. No, I didn't. What did I do? I recorded 2 videos, and they came out on Monday and Tuesday. And that's what I've done all week. I've recorded a load of footage I'm going to try to put together for an FM video for Tuesday. I'll be trying to edit that Monday night. And I should hopefully tonight get a piece written up to go out tomorrow, a write-up for my World Cup exploits for England on my FM challenge for Casey Rense's site, or Andre's site. Yeah. So having this week off, I wasn't even too sure I was going to do this podcast until I pretty much decided yesterday, really. I wasn't too sure I was going to do what I needed to, if I was going to get them out on Tuesday. So yeah, I just found that I wasn't organised and ready for this week, and this is a hobby. This is something I do for fun. It's not something I do because I'm gonna make a career out of it. I'm not gonna, I don't believe I'm gonna get the Life Junkies to a point where I'm gonna be able to monetize it on any sort of platform. So I do this for fun, and I do this for enjoyment. My future career plans at the moment is I'm hoping next year to be going to uni to study to be a teacher. So it's not like I'm trying to make this my future. I enjoy doing it. It's fun. I'm finally in a job where I'm not constantly stressed and miserable with long hours, For people who don't know, I was a chef for a long time. I left the chefing. I'm currently working in a shop because that is easiest for me. It means that I can drop my daughter for school and pick her up from school. If the job is easy compared to chefing, so this is my challenging part of my life: sitting down and writing these blogs, recording these videos, recording these podcasts, getting it all edited. This is the challenge now in my life. This part, yeah. So that is my situation. So I do these because they're a hobby, because they're fun. If I'm not enjoying it, I'm going to stop doing it, and that's fine. There's going to be times when I'm going to keep it going that I'm doing something that I'm not particularly enjoying. There are parts of it that I don't always enjoy. Social media admin is one of those parts, but it's fine. I am doing this. It's cool. So yeah. So if I feel I need to take a week off because I'm a bit mentally tired, I will. I've had messages from people saying they don't understand how I managed to how I was managing to put out that level of stuff. Well, you can do that for a certain period, but it does take its toll after a while. And my partner is great. She puts up with me having to take over. Last night I took over. I had the living room because I was recording down there. She still came down and made a load of noise during the recording. I haven't listened to the videos back, so I don't know how much. But last night for a few hours I took over the living room. Or I might disappear off to write a blog, or whatever else I might do. And she's very understanding of all that, and the sort of the stress and the time it takes me away from her and all that, and so yeah, it's fine. Anyway, but yeah, I am more organised than I was last week, because last week at this point I was just thinking about maybe coming up to write my show notes. I think I may have just started writing my show notes. When I started my first intro, at that point last week I was still sat downstairs playing Fallout 76 with my daughter watching, because she likes to watch me play games like Fallout for a certain amount of time. Yeah, so the rant I went on. So this was a great unplanned rant that I went on the last intro. It's now going to be a planned attempt at a rant. It might not go down quite so well. Again, I'm losing my memory of what I've recorded and what I haven't, and what I've mentioned, what I haven't in which intro. Today's podcast is brought to you by Nespresso, some nitrogen coffee thing. It came in a can. I've whacked some ice in it. It's nice. Nice iced coffee. I like it. Cool. It's probably too early for beers. I had a few beers and some vodka last night. So yeah, I'll probably be beerless today. Yeah. So that is yeah. Right. I've lost my train of thought. Where I was like, rant. Right. My at one point unplanned, unscripted rant that is now planned and slightly scripted because I've already done it, so I sort of know the points. Right, so my issue that I'm going to make with this long intro is good, because I was a bit worried about that I wasn't going to have a length for this podcast, because yeah. Anyway, my intro, my rant, these podcasts, no, these pay-per-views, themed pay-per-views like TLC. I don't like them. That's my rant. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. No, my issue with these pay-per-views is twofold. First of all, and I did mention this in my last intro. I wasn't too sure I had mentioned it. I did. I'm sure I did. I worked it out. I decided I did while I was doing my last intro. I'm sure I mentioned this when I was talking about War Games, when I was reviewing War Games. I'm sure I mentioned that I'm not a fan of these themed pay-per-views, because they make everything seem quite formulaic, quite stilted. Quite, now we're having a War Games match because this is the War Games pay-per-view. Now we're having a Hell in a Cell match because this is the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. And I'm sure I mentioned this also in my write-up for the last Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. You can catch that on the blog. If I remember, I'll pop a link in there. But yeah, so where am I going? Yeah, so I don't like them. It all feels stilted. War Games this year, they managed to make it feel a little more organic. This is the thing. The first year for War Games, they managed to feel it was organic because it was. It was the first ever War Games, and they built this up and they went, now we're going to have War Games. So it's pretty organic, as wrestling writing ever can be. In the second War Games, they still managed to make it feel quite organic, and they this is the thing with NXT, is they can take longer to build these things up, so it can become. It's not like WWE where they've got 4 weeks to build for the next pay-per-view. They were building the War Game storyline from the last takeover, which happened before SummerSlam. So yeah, so it's easier for them. It's not. Again, we used to get the Elimination Chamber. Wasn't it like 3 or 4 years in a row? It was on New Year's Revolution, which is fine. But it wasn't. Oh, this is New Year's Revolution pay-per-view, so we're having an Elimination Chamber, which is what they do now with the Elimination Chamber. It was right. you six are now fighting over the WWE title. I'm going to put you six in the elimination chamber, and that's my sort of Vince sort of Eric. Wasn't really, it's just whatever. But that's how it used to be, and that's fine. But now it's worse with pay-per-views like the TLC where there's multiple matches. There's 5 matches on this one, 5 gimmick matches on this part. It's better with things like the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view where it's 1 or 2, and it's a bit easier to make it all organic. But here it's like now they've got to chuck these people into, you're now doing a ladder match. Why? Well, because it's the ladder match pay-per-view. Duh. Well, but why? Why are they doing it? And I built up a rivalry in the last intro. I'm going to build it up now. So my rivalry in the last pay-per-view is, I mentioned, so in the last intro I mentioned Matt Hardy and Edge, their rivalry, and that's not the best because it doesn't start from the point that I would start from, because it already started in heat situations. They went straight into the game matches. I believe the first match they had was a street fight, but they slowly built these matches up, and they had the street fight, and then they had the cage match, brilliant cage match, and then they went from the cage match to the ladder match. Now I may have missed out a match or two, but they built them organically and they built them logically. They had the street fight and they both ruined each other. So they said, right, your next step, you're going into the cage, and they had the cage match, and Matt Hardy won. He won the cage match. So in that cage match, what he won was he won the right to face Edge for the Money in the Bank briefcase. So what? How do you have a match for Money in the Bank briefcase? Well, you put it above the ring, give them a ladder, let them fight. And now these are two guys that are brilliant at stipulation matches, so it makes sense to put them in stipulation matches, especially ladder matches, which is a Hardy Boy and Edge and Christian, staple. Them and the Dudley Boys and both, the tag team partners in Christian and Jeff Hardy, they were in the first ever TLC match in WWE. That match is famous because of them. So it makes perfect sense to have them. But they built that organically. It made sense. Every step along the way made sense. And it broke my heart watching Lita wrap her legs around Matt to keep him on the ropes while Edge climbed that briefcase, kind of got that briefcase. And that was for that banned Matt from Raw. And that for me was the best feud. It's my favourite ever feud, but it's the best feud in Matt Hardy's career. I would take even that over the broken Matt Hardy stuff. And I love the broken Matt Hardy stuff. But I think that period, that Matt. But it's just, the thing is, that Matt was only there for that feud because he went to SmackDown. He had the really good feud with not R-Truth, with MVP. That was it. That was a really good feud. That was really enjoyable. But that was a different Matt as well. It wasn't mental crazy Matt. I would have kept that. Matt Hardy does really good crazy, as the broken stuff proves. But yeah, so that's a grand feud. And for example, what they don't do anymore is, so I used Finn Balor versus Baron Corbin as an example. Now they just had a load of single matches, and yes, for one of the single matches, Balor came out as the demon, and we all got excited. But it was just a load of single matches. And like in my booking, if I'm booking that, I'm going right. And in this booking, there is another. So Corbin is not the GM necessarily. There is another authority figure that isn't necessarily Stephanie McMahon, because I don't think this is how Stephanie McMahon would book things, or the Stephanie McMahon character anyway. But so Finn Balor and Baron Corbin go out and they have a singles match at a pay-per-view. They don't like each other, they're not getting along, so they go out and have this match. Finn Balor is on top. He's got Corbin on the ropes. They've had a decent match. You're looking at roughly 15 minutes. But Balor has got Corbin on the ropes. He's moving in for the kill. He's winding up to go put him in his finisher. So what does Corbin do? Corbin hits him with a chair, and then he beats him down after the match. Now, Balor has technically won the match. I'm going to bring that back around later. Corbin is the one standing tall at the end of the match. Balor has been beaten down. So maybe you keep Balor off a week. Balor comes back, attacks Corbin. Rah. GM comes like, right, this is madness. You lost the last match. You lost it through DQ. That's not on. I'm putting you two together at the next pay-per-view in a street fight. There'll be no DQ, no disqualifications, no countouts. Pinfall, best man wins. Brilliant. So they go out for a street fight in the next pay-per-view. Again, they're having roughly another 15-minute match. Balor is once again winding up to beat Corbin. Corbin is on the ropes. He's winding up for his finish, and then suddenly Drew McIntyre appears. Claymores Balor out of nowhere from behind, and Corbin gets the 1, 2, 3. Now, technically, they've both won a match each. Corbin has been stood tall at the end of both matches, but technically they've won a match each. So the next night on Raw, the GM comes out and goes, right, I've had enough of this. You've done every dirty trick in the book. You've got yourself disqualified to avoid losing by pinfall. You have had outside influence going to help you. So to stop all this, I'm going to put you in a match that is both no DQ, but also stop anyone else from getting involved. I'm putting you two in for a rubber match in a cage match. And they go out and have a cage match. And then Balor finally picks up the win. He gets his revenge. He wins a rubber match. He has won that feud and he moves on. That is booking that they just don't do anymore. And it's proved that we've got so many of these single matches. And they don't do that booking anymore because they've got to save the cage matches. They've got to save the street fights and all that for the pay-per-views. They've got to save them for Extreme Rules. They've got to save the ladder matches and the TLC matches and the tables matches for TLC, or even for the Raw before TLC, apparently. So they hurt you in two ways. They hurt you because when the matches do come, they seem more formulaic and not as organically booked. But also, it means you get more of these singles matches. And this is what we've seen with Balor and Corbin. It's what we've seen with Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. And yes, they did do a last match in the end. Too little, too late. And it's what we've seen with a lot of these other feuds that they've done. Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles was one that really reeked of that because they'd had their fights in New Japan. And so when Shinsuke won the Royal Rumble and when they went for that WrestleMania match, yes, we were all expecting a brilliant match. But we didn't get that brilliant match. And why didn't we get a brilliant match? Partly because these two guys have done it all. And the point of a stipulation match is it gives two guys that have been wrestling each other for a long time something new. That's why, for example, Randy Orton versus Rey Mysterio now, it's okay to have in a singles match. They've wrestled each other loads of time, but it's years ago. So it's given them both a chance to add new things to their arsenal to try something different. And it's given us a chance to go, okay, we haven't seen this in a while. Let's give it a go. But if you're doing that, on what Shinsuke and AJ Styles was crying out for was a stipulation. And it had it with the whole kicking him in the balls thing. That could have been your in. My example with Finn Balor and Baron Corbin is just an example. There's a million ways to book that, but book your feuds in that way. Not every feud has to be exactly the same. But at the moment, all we're getting pay-per-views just full of singles matches. And then we get another pay-per-view just full of gimmick matches because that is the gimmick match pay-per-view and it's naff. I'd get rid of all of them. I'd maybe keep Extreme Rules, but have that literally as every match is Extreme Rules. Not this, I think, what they put a bra and panties match on it once, didn't they? Something naff like that, which is not extreme. But yeah. So, AJ Styles and Shinsuke, that's the idea. The idea of stipulation match, it gives wrestlers another way to work a match. Because you work a last man standing match or a table match completely differently to how you work a regular singles match. And again, a ladder match is completely different. A street fight would be completely different. You work these matches all different. So you give these guys a chance to work these matches differently. Give them something else to work with. And that's the problem. We've got these guys, and I'm going to sit down here. I'm going to say this card looks good. I say that every pay per view, but this card looks good. There's a few matches. There's a few matches that might or might not happen. There's a few matches that might be squash matches because one of the guys in either match might not be up to doing a full match, and that's fine. If you're ill, or if you're injured, we've got Balor's been off ill. Strowman he's got an elbow injury. I'd be very surprised if he is back from that elbow injury now, ready to have a full match. So it's fine. If those two matches you go in and you do squash matches because they're injured, that's fine. A lot of people are saying that's why we got the TLC match with Seth Rollins and Corbin on Raw because we're not going to get the one on this paper, which is fine. Or we're going to get one, but it's going to be a squash. It's fine. I've got no issue with that. That's a genuine reason. That's fine. What was the point I was trying to make? But yeah. But this looks like it could be a good pay-per-view, but I say that every month. I say that about every pay-per-view because they've got the wrestlers. The talent they've got is they've got the best talent in the world. They've got some of the best wrestlers in the world. But you've got to give them the tools to go out and give a good match. Seth Rollins versus Ziggler feud or something like that. Now, I enjoyed every single one of those matches, but they could have, maybe some of them could be better if they'd given them a stipulation to it. Maybe it could have been rubbish. But not every wrestler. Those are two very, very good wrestlers who can pull out great matches. Not every wrestler is like that. So you've got to give them the ability to give them the tools to do something different if a singles match isn't going to work, if they're struggling with ideas. and that's where WWE is failing the wrestlers. There you go. That is my intro. That is all recorded. Audacity seems doing well. That is half an hour of intro. Over half an hour of intro. Cool. Right, I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee, and I will come back to talk about the match.
This is a Life Junkie podcast.
And I am back. So, matches. Where do I start? Well, I'm going to start with a match that I believe will be on the pre-show, which is the final of a mixed match challenge, which is Alicia Fox and Jinder Mahal versus R-Truth and Carmella. I'm not going to bother giving these teams names because it's stupid. I do think they'll keep R-Truth and Carmella together after this, just because I think they like them. They've had them on SmackDown quite prominently. I think they quite like them as a comedy act, which is fine. R-Truth has always been brilliant as a comedy act. Carmella is all right. Keeping Carmella away from being the women's champion is fine by me when they've got the talented women wrestlers they do. So yeah, that's fine. So the first bullet point I have on my show notes here is just why. I watched the first series of Mixed Match Challenge. I haven't watched any of the seconds. I haven't watched a massive amount of wrestling in recent times. I'm behind on NXT and NXT UK. I've stopped watching Raw and SmackDown completely. I should probably watch 205 Live, but if I'm not catching up on NXT and NXT UK, which I have a very strong vested interest in, adding 205 Live to mix. And while Mixed Match Challenge is only, 15 minutes maximum, as it's still hard to sort of sit down and you've got to load up the app and got to find the time. Got to find the time when my daughter probably watched it, but she still winds off for a little while. But yeah, I didn't know that this match was for the number 30 spot in the Royal Rumble, in both Royal Rumbles. It makes sense, I guess. However, then you've got the issue of what we've got here are two jobber teams. Alicia Fox is funny. She's all right in a women's division, but she's not a number 30 showstopper. Jinder Mahal is just he's naff. R-Truth is great fun, and if this was 5 years ago, brilliant, cool. 5-10 years ago, cool, get him in there. I realised 10 years ago I think he was working for TNA. I don't care. Shut up. And Carmella, I've already mentioned my opinion on Carmella. She's fine in the position she is currently, but she shouldn't be women's champion again. Not right now. If she comes back and improves, and then yeah, cool, but not right now. So if this match sort of seems a bit of a waste, really. I have to ask if this was planned from the start. I think not. I don't think they would have booked these guys in this position. I believe that possibly, and again, I haven't mentioned before, so I don't know how far I'll go. The Balor versus Corbin, Balor versus McIntyre, pay-per-view match was booked. It feels like it's a bit of a last-minute chuck together dealy. But I would question if maybe the injury to Finn Balor's illness scuppered the chances of him and Bayley winning the whole thing. If they were planned. And that would have been great. Finn Balor and Bayley are both two people that really need the win. They'd be great at number 30 entries. Do I think either of them are going to win a Royal Rumble? No. And I'll talk about my plans for Women's Royal Rumble later. Surprise, foreshadowing. Ooh. But I think they would have been far better winners. However, I still think Apollo Crews and Bayley would have been better winners than either of these two. You still would have got the Bayley being Bayley and her factor. But Apollo Crews is a superstar who is, I think they should be manoeuvring in to start to take off. In the next year, I'd like to see him at least challenge him for the midweight, the IC or the US titles, if not winning them and having a bit of a run. He's the exact kind of guy who should be coming up and grabbing that title on his way up. He's got everything. I don't understand why when Apollo Crews is like Bobby Lashley, but better. He's smaller, yes, but he's far more agile. He's still got the build. He's huge, and he's far more charismatic than Lashley ever was. Granted, I don't think I'll ever be able to look at Lashley and not imagine calling Finlay a bastard. But yeah, I don't understand why he's been left with to job out with what's his name? The bloke that keeps falling over. His name will come to me when I'm talking about another match, and I'll shout it out. But anyway, I think even they would have been a better winner than these two teams. Now, the other thing about this match is it takes away the surprise from the number 30 slot, which I don't think is necessary. I'm sure they used to do this whole picking lots thing, and people would fight over numbers. I can't remember. And yes, they've had this, we've been doing the surprise at number 30 for a long time. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing taking the surprise away from the number 30 slot, even if it is the coveted number 30. I find it quite interesting, but I don't think any of the people in this match have the gravitas to them to make that number 30 work, whether it's a surprise or not. So I think it's a shame. I think R-Truth and Carmella are going to get the win simply because they are the better team. But yeah, R-Truth is far from in his heyday, and Carmella needs to do a lot of improving if she wants to be big in the women's division, if she wants to keep up with Asuka, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair. So, nah for me. But yeah, R-Truth and Carmella are my winners. The next match is Finn Balor versus Drew McIntyre. I've mentioned Finn Balor's illness now, so this may not happen. It might be a squash match. I don't know. I think this match doesn't really massively make sense to me to put them together. It's quite obvious who's going to win. Drew McIntyre is going to win because he is the next big thing. And in fairness, he should be the one that they're pushing up there. He's brilliant. He's got everything he needs to be world champion. So it makes sense to push him up. And I think they're positioning for a big feud against Braun Strowman when Braun Strowman wins the Universal title. Well, that's one. We never know. Things aren't fixed, and from what I've heard, there's disagreements backstage between Vince and Triple H about where to go with the Universal title. But that's one way that I would have gone with it. Have Drew McIntyre as the big heel, and have Braun Strowman as the big face going through to WrestleMania. Have that being the big one. But I don't know. I don't think this match helps either. Balor needs to start winning. Balor's great. He can be in the Universal title picture. He's far good enough for it. I know Vince doesn't seem to rate him after the injury, but at this point, he desperately needs some wins. He needs to start building up because right now he's not even in a Universal title picture. Not in the Universal title. He's not even in the Intercontinental title picture. You can't imagine him going up against Seth Rollins. So he's that far down the pecking order. He desperately needs some wins. He desperately needs to start beating some of these guys. Drew McIntyre doesn't need the win against Finn Balor. Finn Balor's far too far down the pecking order for it to mean anything to Drew McIntyre at this point when he's there having matches with Braun Strowman and that level of guy. So Drew needs stronger opposition than Finn, and then Finn needs weaker so he can start building himself up. Now, say that Finn Balor is now ready to fight, which out of the two of them, Finn Balor is one that I most believe would be ready. I don't think Braun Strowman is going to be ready at all. So if Finn Balor is ready for a proper match, this could be stunning. This could be match of the night. If both these guys are two of my favourite wrestlers in the company at the moment. So yeah, this is probably one of the matches I'm most looking forward to tonight. I would say that there's a very strong chance we can get a Dolph Ziggler interruption. Again, as I said, I haven't really been watching Raw. I watch the odd ups and downs by Simon Miller for What Culture. I keep up to date on Twitter with Wrestling Inc. So yeah, I believe we're looking at. I presume we're going to get some sort of Dolph Ziggler interruption, which is ironic as Finn is the new Dolph Ziggler. WWE know he'll give him a good level of match no matter who he's against. He sells brilliantly, and he is a former world champion, which adds a certain level of kudos to whoever beats him because you've now beaten a former world champion, and WWE love this thing. So, and this is what Dolph had his world title run fairly early in his WWE career-ish. I think the first one was when he was with Vicky, cashing the Money in the Bank. So yeah, Finn is in the same. Finn's first pay-per-view, he won a world title. He won the Universal Championship, and now he's stuck in that. Oh well, he's great. He's great to be beaten by the big guys, but what also not doing and not having him beat the smaller guys. So he's just sort of dropped. Oh yeah. My prediction for this is Drew McIntyre, even with a Dolph Ziggler interruption. Moving on, I'm going to talk about maybe the most stupid stipulation of the night, which is a guitar on a ladder match. I guess it's down as a ladder match, but the guitar is up there, and the first person to climb it and get the guitar can hit the other person. Does that then mean they've won, or do they still need to pin them? Is it do they win when they take the ladder guitar down, or do they win when they hit the person, or do they need to pin them? I don't know. again, I don't watch Raw, so I don't really know. I haven't been able to find much in the way of information online. And why not just use the ladder as a weapon? I guess if it's a pinfall match, maybe the pinfall stipulation of a match only starts when the guitarists come down. Are they allowed to use other weapons? Are they not? Are they? This is for me. This is actually worse than an on a pole match, because an on a pole match is more simple. This is they're just messing with things, man. It's because they don't want to do an on the pole match. This is basically an on the pole match, but they don't want to do an on the pole match, so they've put it on top of a ladder instead, which adds more level of stupidity to it. I think Bobby Lashley's going to win this one. I don't think Elias is destined for the world title spot. I don't think they see him like that. I think he's great to come out and he's very good with the crowd, but I don't think he's world title material. Whereas I think they need to start building Bobby Lashley up to that level, and I think that's the plan for him. That's why he was one of the last three remaining at Survivor Series. Eventually, he'll be moving into that world title picture. I don't think he's going to win anything, but I think he'll be in the world title picture, fighting those guys, fighting the Drew McIntyres and the Braun Strowmans and the Roman Reigns when Roman Reigns comes back. Bobby Lashley is my prediction for that one. Moving on quickly to another match to the Natalya versus Ruby Riott in a tables match. Now I can't talk about this match without talking about the use of Jim Neidhart in it. We saw him plastered onto a table on Raw. Again, I didn't watch Raw, but I saw the pictures. Any wrestling fan has seen it by now. I have talked about that I am okay with the use of Roman Reigns' name at the moment being used in storylines. And before I've got to written down the notes after talking about everything I want to talk about with these. But I want to say it now. I am nowhere near any of these situations. My opinion means diddly squat to these people, and to I don't know who's okayed what. I don't know how these people are feeling. I don't know Roman Reigns personally. I didn't know Jim Neidhart personally, and I'm going to talk about the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I don't know him personally. I don't know anyone in the situation personally. I am in about as far away from the situation. The only part of the situation I'm in is I'm a wrestling fan and I'm watching this. But for me, the Roman Reigns use is two things. They haven't used it much. It was the timing of Ambrose's heel turn, and it was, I think, what was the comment is, I don't care what Roman Reigns would think. Ambrose said. Those are the only two that spring to mind that they've done, and I'm okay with that because it's been sparse. And because Roman Reigns is a current wrestler, I fully believe Food is okay. And personally, if I was in Roman Reigns' position, I'd be more than happy for it. And this thing, you've got to try and put yourself in these people's position, and it can be quite hard because a lot of us haven't had. I haven't had a big illness diagnosis for myself, or really anyone in my family. The closest I've got is my daughter. I talked about this in the Roman Reigns video. My daughter has JDM, juvenile dermatomyositis, which is a movement issue. But that's not something that she could die from. That's not something she's got to have chemotherapy, which is horrible. It's something she's on daily medication and she has trouble walking. Sometimes she has a lot of pain, particularly in her legs, and she has calcinosis on her elbow, which is painful, and she's going to hate when she's older. Or when she's a teenager who worries about what she looks, that's going to be a massive issue for her. But it's not life-threatening. Like, people have died from it, but she's not. She's fine. Apart from that, she has a perfectly normal life. She's downstairs at the moment. I can hear her. She's singing and dancing to My Little Pony. She's fine. She's just the same as any other normal little 5-year-old girl. I've had no one particularly close to me pass away. I've had my grandma pass away when I was 11, but that's still not the same as a parent like Natty, or a husband like Natty's mum has had to deal with, or a parent like Goldust and Cody Rhodes have had to deal with. It's different. So I can only put myself in their place so much, but I can to a certain degree. And yeah, I think I can't see Roman Reigns. They must have okayed it with Roman Reigns, because there's no way they're going to risk upsetting the star that they see as their golden boy going forward. It's not going to happen. The difference between that and the Neidhart stuff is the Neidhart stuff seems to have been constant for the last 2 months or so. We've had the constant references to him on Raw. We've had the snapping of the sunglasses, and now the table. There's been a lot of mention of it on the commentary desk. Constant replays of it. Oh, she's done this. Rah, rah, rah. We've had the Natty crying, and it's been so much. It just feels very distasteful. Now, of course, no one's. I don't know. Maybe Jim, before he passed away, had told someone that he'd be happy to be used. I can't imagine that as being top of his priority list at any point. It seemed very sudden, his passing, but it doesn't. Depending on what you believe, I guess. I don't believe there is anything after this, so I don't believe it doesn't bother him where he's being used, because he's not there to be bothered anymore. I'm sure Natty wouldn't be doing this unless she felt happy doing it. I'd like to think so. I would like to think she didn't feel like she had to. But someone else that might be struggling with this is Natty's mum, and Natty also has a sister. I don't know. It's have they been asked? This is different in the Roman situation to Reigns is dealing with it, and of course his family around him, his wife, his daughter. I think his parents are still around. They're also dealing with supporting him, not in the same way as losing someone. It's completely different. So this all makes me feel uncomfortable. And again, I need to point this out again. My opinion on this means nothing apart from me being a fan. I'm nowhere near this situation. It's not my place to around and go, guys, I'm not happy with this. You stop it. It's not my place. That's the place of the people in the situation. It's the place of Natty. If Natty feels uncomfortable with it, for her to say, or for her sister to say, Natty, I'm not happy with this, or her mum, or whatever, those people in that situation to say, we're unhappy with this. All I can presume is if they are doing this, that everyone involved, everyone that could be affected by this, is okayed it and is happy with it going forward. In a similar way to Eddie Guerrero's death way back when, and I think I was too young to properly realise the gravity of that. And a lot of people complained about that, and they said that was distasteful. At the time, it didn't bother me, but I didn't think too deeply into it like I do now. That was 2005. That was 13 years ago. I was 16, roughly 16 at the time. I'm 29. I'm 30 in less than a month's time. I'm a different person to how I was then. So, and it's a whole different thing. Where is it? I don't know. I'm just saying words to let my brain get me to my next point. But I personally feel the way they've done it has been distasteful. But again, what does my opinion matter? Another point I want to go to is a way they did it well on screen, and I don't think they did it well off screen. And I'll point out is the American Dream teddy bear, and that was in a feud with Goldust and R-Truth against, was it the Club? And Bayley gave him gave Goldust an American Dream teddy bear, and she said how much he meant to her, and which is perfectly true. He meant a lot to a whole host of the NXT guys. He was their mentor and rival. He was very much there helping them, and they, So Bayley gave him the teddy bear, which was a very moving moment, I felt. And then, is it in another segment later on, or maybe the same segment? I can't remember now. The Club came along, and I think they ripped the head off the teddy bear or something, and that upset a lot of people. I felt that was done quite tastefully. It's hard when you talk about taste. Taste in wrestling is it hasn't always been the most tasteful sport or form of entertainment. It's quite often been crass. I know that as well as any other wrestling fan knows that. Just look at nearly anything from the Attitude Era. Yeah, people still mention Triple H and the Kane feud. That I'm not going to give it too much air, but pretty much everything DX did was crass. Pretty much everything Vince McMahon did in that period was crass. So, but it's different. We're in a different world now. Different people are watching it. It's different tastes. But I felt they handled that quite well. And again, I can only get my beliefs. If I feel like, and again, I'm not in that situation. I'm, no one close to me has died. I'm not a wrestler. I'm not, dying anytime soon, I hope. But they, I believe that these guys wouldn't have any issue with themselves being used. That's my belief. Challenge me on that if you will, but that's what I believe. I don't believe Dusty Rhodes had an issue with himself being used in that. And I presume that Goldust wasn't, and it was a one-time thing used to build up. Maybe, you can say something like that for a proper feud, but Goldust isn't going to be in a proper feud like that anytime soon. He's done. So they used it for what they could, I guess. Now, in that situation, so obviously, they didn't reach out to everyone because I believe Cody Rhodes voiced his opposition to it, and I've taken issue with Cody Rhodes in the past. I once tweeted about him commenting on Starrcade. They were doing a Starrcade pay-per-view, and it being reported on. I was like, do we have to hear Cody Rhodes' opinion on everything? And I didn't make this point now. It was a Wrestling Inc. article, and I may have quote tweeted that and then said my piece. I didn't add any hashtags. I didn't at anybody. It was just a tweet on my timeline of roughly 100 followers. I'm going to check it right now. I have 258 followers. That's, it's probably changed from last year. I think this happened. And I just tweeted that to my followers. There's no hashtags, no ats, no nothing. It seems Cody Rhodes searches his own name because Cody Rhodes found it and Cody Rhodes liked it. He didn't retweet it or anything like that. He just liked it. And of course, likes now come up in your for certain Twitter apps. And I got a bit of abuse for it on Twitter, not a massive amount, nothing too nasty. I got called a mark or something a few times. I thought the whole thing was quite funny. But yeah, so I've taken issue with him commenting other things, but of course he has, when it comes to his dad's death, he has, I think they owe him that. If they're going to use his dad's death in any way in a storyline, they have to go through the proper. I think you have to talk to people. You have to make sure, even if they're not a part of your company, you still owe them that to go and talk to them to go clear it. And it felt like the WWE hadn't. So I guess for what I mean is, from a creative point of view, I thought it was well handled, but from a behind the scenes point of view, it wasn't. That's a lot of talking about a match that I'm not particularly keen to see. But yeah. I think after everything that Natty has been through in the storyline, which has been going on for a lot longer than it should be, Natty has to win this, and then it's done. No more. I don't really want to see any more of it. As a wrestling fan, I don't want to see any more of it. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Say what you will about me for that, but yeah.
Yeah, listening to Life Junkies podcast.
Moving on, because I am going probably far too long now. I talk about the chairs match. Chairs match next. Rey Mysterio versus Randy Orton. Chair match is just stupid. Like, not as stupid as a guitar on a ladder match, but still stupid. They're basically hardcore matches, just with a name, so that they can have a tables match, a ladders match, and a chairs match, and then a TLC's match at a TLC pay-per-view. It's stupid. Having said that, both these guys are very good. I can guarantee they'll put on a great match. And we are guaranteed some form of high-flying RKO, possibly off a 619. Ray splashes off the ropes, and bam, RKO. They may have done that in the past, I don't know. But that's what I think. However, having said that, I think Rey Mysterio is going to win. I think he needs to win far more than Randy Orton does. He's lost pretty much all his matches since coming back. He's had a few wins, but all the big high-profile matches he's lost. So he needs a pay-per-view match to win. Otherwise, you'll start looking at his comeback going, oh, why? Why has he come back? What's he doing? Because it's not even like he's putting over new guys. He's put over, was it The Miz? Did he put over Jeff Hardy? And then Randy Orton. These are guys that don't need the rub. He needs to be putting over some younger guys. Let him put over Ty Dillinger. Let him put over someone else. And use him in the matches against people we haven't seen before. Give him, hopefully, at some point he'll now be able to get a match against AJ Styles or a match against Samoa Joe or some of these guys. I know these aren't new guys, but these are guys that we haven't seen him wrestle on WWE TV. I know he probably has wrestled them while he's been on the independents, but we haven't seen him wrestle him on WWE TV. So do those matches, please, guys. Yeah. Moving on quickly, because I've been probably going for too long as it is. The Cruiserweight Championship, Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander. Hopefully this isn't on the pre-show. I've whacked it in the middle of a card because this is roughly where I think it will be. The Cruiserweight Championship matches have been some of the best matches on the respective cards in the last few pay-per-views. So these guys have earned a spot on the proper card. I felt very much like Cedric Alexander shouldn't have lost the title. I remember talking in one of my write-ups that I felt that he should have kept the title through past WrestleMania. But now he has lost the title to Buddy Murphy. I'd keep it on Buddy Murphy. Buddy Murphy's great, by the way. He is more than enough. He is more than good enough to take the title and to run with it, to do what I wanted Cedric Alexander to do. The Cruiserweight title is starting to mean more and more after the cluster that was first being introduced. So yeah, I like that. I go for Buddy Murphy to win. I didn't say my prediction for last one. My prediction for last one is Rey Mysterio. Cool. Moving on to SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. This is the Bar versus the New Day versus the Usos. Right, I've got so many more matches to go. I've been going for so long. I predict that Xavier Woods will be taken out by Big Show. He will be the one that's not wrestling for New Day. The Big Show will put through a table. I know I said about the. I know I said that about Drake Maverick, and they did something so much worse. I don't think that of Xavier Woods wetting himself. I think he will be put through a table and be put out of commission, and then the Big Show will be sent to the back. And then we'll just have a triple threat match. These are the three teams that are constantly in the picture. They're all great teams, but I think maybe we should look at giving some other people a chance. Don't get me wrong, it's still going to be a great match. These are three of the best tag teams in the company, but why aren't the club being given a chance? Why aren't some of the other guys being given a chance? They've got quite a few tag teams. They've got a few guys that aren't doing anything at the moment, so why not get them into the tag team division? I really like tag team wrestling. I think it breaks up a card really well. It's a different. I was talking earlier about stipulation matches being a different dynamic to singles matches, and that being the point of them. Well, a tag team match is a different dynamic to a singles match. It's completely different. So use these matches. Give us good matches in these cards that have a different dynamic. And yeah, come on, guys. I predict that the Bar will win, and then they'll go and defend against some new teams. And, the New Day and the Usos will go their separate ways and do their thing. I wouldn't mind seeing the New Day start, not break up necessarily, but start to have some singles runs. I think that would be quite good. Big E, maybe, try and push Big E into the world title picture somewhat. It's obvious that he's the one that they're going to go with that direction. And I think it could work with the guys backing him up and maybe having their own. You could have Xavier going for Cruiserweight while Kofi goes for the United States, and have them split up but sort of still be together, but we don't have to constantly be together. We don't have to break up every tag team that decide they want to go for singles matches. It's like when Big Cass was fighting for the world title. He did that with Enzo Amore in his corner. That's fine. It added something more to it. Enzo Amore could almost be his manager. They can do that with a New Day. Fully believe that. Anyway, moving on to the Raw Women's Championship match. This is Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jax. I am massively not optimistic about this. I think the stars are going to mix well. I think that Nia Jax is awful in the ring, and I think that Rousey is. I don't think Rousey is still relatively new in her career. I would have liked to see her in with someone with more experience than Jax, at least someone that can actually wrestle a decent match without injuring their opponent. But hey, it'd be quite fun to see if Jax actually properly punches Rousey and Rousey beats the living hell out of her. That'd be quite fun. So it is a proper MMA match. It would also be quite fun to see Rousey get some of those judo throws on Nia Jax. And at first, you might not think that she'd be able to get some judo throws on her. I've trained in judo, not to a massively high standard. I think I was 5th Mon, which is a yellow belt, for those that don't know about it. But the point of judo is using your opponent's weight against them. Ronda Rousey could totally throw Jax without Jax having to do anything to help her and make it still safe. That's perfectly fine. I have seen men throw men much larger than themselves in judo matches. That's the whole point of it. The whole point of judo is using your opponent's, I've already said this, but it's using your opponent's size and strength against them. It's the whole point of it. So yeah, in that regards, it could be quite fun, but I don't know what they're going to do because it can't just all be judo throws. It's not going to work. I don't know what they're going to do in between the judo throws. I don't know how they're going to build a match with decent psychology. So, I think Rousey will get the win. I am worried that Jax will win, but I believe that Jax and Tamina are going to go for new women's tag team titles at WrestleMania. I believe there'll be some sort of tournament on both sides to crown a SmackDown and a Raw Women's Championship. So yeah, my prediction is Ronda Rousey to win this one. Now, our TLC match, or the first of our 2 TLC matches, is Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin. I think this will be a very quick squash match, with Strowman squashing Corbin and Corbin losing the GMship. I think this for several reasons. It doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form for Corbin to beat Strowman in this match. I don't think Strowman's going to be healed from the elbow injury, and I think the best way is just to come back and squash Corbin. I don't think it massively damages. It does damage Corbin, but they squashed him for Finn Balor, so why not squash him for Braun Strowman when they have so much more faith in Strowman? Also, Matt Hardy has been teasing about becoming GM on Twitter. That would be a great way to get the broken or woken Matt Hardy character on TV without having to wrestle constantly. He's just been recovering from a fused coccyx. He doesn't need to be wrestling every week, or even every month. So you get him on there, so he can wrestle occasionally when he feels right. Broken Matt Hardy's going to, put on the old gear and go teach someone a lesson. But you can still get that broken woken madness on TV. Let them produce the segments themselves with what's his name from TNA, and yeah, that could be great. Maybe a few other people have been teasing being GM as well. That's fine. They could do some sort of contest for it going forward. That'd be fine. Also, I would love to see broken woken Matt Hardy messing with Corbin for a bit to actually get the GM ship himself. That'd be great fun. Moving on to the IC Championship match, Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose. First of all, I think this is going to be a very good match. We've seen them working from the other way, this dynamic with Rollins as the heel and Ambrose as the face. Now we get to reverse it, which I think is the more natural way for both men. The IC title has been hot potatoed a bit since The Miz lost it, and it's become more of just a prop. I would personally like to see it be given a much more prominence and someone be given a longer run. I think Seth Rollins is the man to do that. I don't think he needs to go to the world title picture yet. I don't think him in the middle of Drew McIntyre versus Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley is going to work. I'd rather have him hold that title for a long time, like The Miz did, and give something to it, make it. I am the man holding the IC title. I am proud of this title. I'm proud to hold it. At the moment, all his feud has just been all about him. So let's make it about the IC title and let him bring some back to it. I understand that a loss here will hurt Ambrose's heel turn, but he can get that heat back elsewhere. He can go find someone else to beat up and get some wins. That's fine. He doesn't need to beat Seth Rollins here. Even maybe do a DQ finish or some sort where he doesn't win the title, but he beats up Seth Rollins and comes out. He goes, "I don't want the title. I just wanted to beat you up." I know that's against what I just said last, but just get this feud done and out of the way and then Seth can be the man bringing prestige back to the IC title. Moving on again quickly, because I need to do this all a lot quicker now, to the WWE Championship match with Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. I love Daniel Bryan's heel turn. I think it's very similar to CM Punk's heel turn. What he's saying is technically true, but the way he says it, the way he delivers it, the sheer militance of it is what makes him a heel. I know it's slightly different. Punk is arguing for the environment, which is a genuine issue. And I guess alcohol and drugs are less than an issue. As people know, I like a good beer and a bit of alcohol. And so, I don't think drinking necessarily is wrong, but I think, what he was saying about people being addicted to these things and letting all their lives is true. And there's a lot of people. You see a lot of people every day. I work with people. I have people in my family that let alcohol. Alcohol is a major motivation. I think that's a bad thing. I drink. Okay. Sometimes I go out and get far too drunk, but but in general, I drink responsibly. I have, maybe I'll come down and have a beer, and that's my beer. And I buy myself a nicer beer because I like the nicer beer and I like it for taste. I've never been one of those people that drinks to get drunk. It's just not me. That's not a healthy way to live. I think Brian's heel character is especially important this time when we've actually got climate change deniers. As ridiculous as it sounds, they are being given time. We've got a climate change denier is present in the White House. These people are given time on TV and radio and to argue the ridiculous points. So yeah, and people don't like being told the truth. They don't like being told these things. They want someone like Brian or someone like Punk to be a heel because they don't have to face their own issues, what they're doing is wrong and is destructive. If it's a personal destructive way in the same way that alcohol and drugs are, or if it's in a world destructive way in the way that the climate change issues are. There you go. I don't think a loss here hurts AJ Styles particularly. He's had more than enough wins in this very long reign as champ. I think it's time for him to step down, and that does that. And now, last but not least, we have the SmackDown Women's Championship in a TLC. This is Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch versus Asuka. Now, I think this is the one match of the night where literally anyone could win it. rest of the matches, I feel fairly confident with my prediction. This nearly anyone could win it. However, I have come up with a series of, or I've come up with a booking timeline that I really like. I'm really excited for, and I really hope will happen. This is for me probably my most anticipated match on the card. I think this could be. I'm a big fan of all three of these women. Charlotte Flair is very much ran the women's division. Her and Alexa Bliss have held up whichever brand they're on, basically. I've always been a massive fan of Becky Lynch. I think she's brilliant. I think the man character has helped her explode. And Asuka ran NXT. She's been treated appallingly since she's come up to the main roster. But anyone that saw her work on NXT can be sure that she was brilliant. She has all the skills to carry a brand like SmackDown. And then that is why I am comfortable saying I believe Asuka will win this. Now, you may be looking at me going, Mike, they treated Asuka like an idiot for so long. They chucked her in a tag team with Naomi because they didn't know what to do with her and had them lose to the Iconics. They had her lose because she got outwitted by, what's his name? Chin dude, him. And, hit in the head by Shark Cage and lost several times to Carmella. Why? Why would you think she'd win this match? Well, dear listener, dear single listener, I believe she will win this match because Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair have unfinished business with Ronda Rousey. That is true. They had Becky Lynch had the match that never happened, and Charlotte Flair beat Ronda Rousey down after their match and then sort of nothing's come of it since then. And I said at the time, why have they done this? Well, I will tell you why they've done this. They've done this because, and this is how I'm not going to tell you my end point. I'm going to work you through it. So Asuka now wins this match. Maybe Becky and Charlotte cancel each other out. Cool. Asuka wins this match. She is now the SmackDown Women's title holder. Becky goes on to a Royal Rumble and wins it. Becky Lynch wins the Royal Rumble. And that night goes, you may have beaten me, Asuka, but you, Rousey, I'm coming for you. I'm taking your Raw Women's title from you, and I'm going to take it to SmackDown. Cool. So we've built two people in a match. It's at WrestleMania. Now, Charlotte Flair has issues with both women. She's beaten down Ronda Rousey before. She's had issues with Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch took her title from her by cheating. So Charlotte Flair is a new, more unpredictable character, starts to attack both women in the build-up to WrestleMania. She gets herself inserted again into another Becky Lynch title match, just like she did when she won the title earlier in the year that precipitated the Becky Lynch heel turn. There we go. The three of them fight at WrestleMania. I'm not going to make a prediction on who's going to win that match. Personally, I'll go for Becky. Okay, I am going to make a prediction. I'm going to predict that Becky wins the match overall. And she is redeemed in her own eyes. She has won that, after losing the two triple threat matches, one that should have been a singles match, and one that should have been her in a singles match challenging for a title, and one that she lost her title in. She goes and wins a third. Meanwhile, Asuka now sits upon the top of a women's throne in the dominant fashion she did in NXT, takes on all comers, having brilliant matches, but being the woman on SmackDown. And then we go to after WrestleMania, we have a shake-up, and Becky Lynch is forced across the Raw, and that's it. That is my prediction is Asuka to win that match. I think it's going to close out the pay-per-view. That's what I'm really looking forward to. So if you have stayed with me this far, thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and I hope you subscribe to us if you haven't already. And let's all enjoy TLC, and hopefully I'll have this out on YouTube before it starts. Right, cheers for being with me, and I will see you later, guys. Goodbye. Hi guys, thanks for staying with me this far through the video. If you've enjoyed this podcast but haven't checked out my others, I will have my my playlist of podcast videos up on one side of the screen. I have previews and reviews of Survivor Series and a review of War Games. But I don't just podcast about wrestling. I also have an FM podcast with Tony FM Grasshopper and Mike According to FM, and I have a gaming podcast. They're all on the same feed, all in the same playlist. They are all in that, and my gaming podcast is talking about Pokemon Go and Fallout 76. If you've enjoyed this but don't want to keep watching on YouTube videos, you can subscribe to me on SoundCloud or your podcast provider of choice. On the other side, I will have my my video of I'll have a football manager video. I'm literally deciding on the spot when I'm recording this. I'll have a football manager video on the other side talking about my tactics that I released for my most recent England save. So if you enjoyed this, remember, like, share and subscribe. It really helps me out. I'm a very, very small channel. And go watch one of my videos. Go watch them all. Give me viewing figures, guys. I need it.